sponsored by Black Magic Design, the world's highest quality products for the feature film, post and broadcast industries. blackmagicdesign.com. And by the Tonkawa Film Festival, celebrating short films from around the world. tonkawafilmfestival.com.
Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend. I'm Jason Godbey, and today on the program, we're going to be talking about the 2025 Tribeca Festival. And to help me do that, we got our man in Jersey. You know him from Cinema Scholars. You know him from Ain't It Cool, Mr. Eric McClanahan.
Hello, how are you?
Nice to have you back, my friend. We're doing this one at distance because we have so much to do. There's so much festival to look at that we didn't even have time to get into the studio. So, general impressions of Tribeca. So this year, based on what we know that's coming to Tribeca.
Well, we've been to Tribeca Festival before. We actually met at Tribeca Film Festival back in, I believe it was 2023. Oh, simpler times. And, you know, we've been there for several years now. And it gets bigger and bigger every year. It expands into the city every year. You know, already we're running between, I think, 4 movie theaters. This one promises to be more of the same, if not more. This year, they received, I think, 13,000 plus submissions, and they whittled it down for the 24th annual festival to 118 films from 135 filmmakers across 36 countries. 94 of the films are going to be world premieres. So we'll be seeing these films for the first time on planet Earth at Tribeca. So very exciting.
Let's talk about the documentaries first.
Yeah, we can't just say documentaries, because we have comedy documentaries, we have music documentaries, sports documentaries, and then just general documentaries. But let's start with music.
I think I counted there's like 14 or 15 just documentaries either with music or about music acts. And some of it, quite frankly, reads like an MTV playlist from 1986. The opening night film is Billy Joel and So It Goes. Then we've got Billy Idol Should Be Dead, Boy George and Culture Club, Counting Crows Have You Seen Me Lately, Depeche Mode M, I Was Born This Way, about Archbishop Carl Bean's hit disco song, Just Sing, about the USC band SoCal Vocals, Metallica Saved My Life, Move Ya Body, about the birth of house music, Rebecca, about the Latin pop star Becky G, The Rose, Come Back to Me, about the indie Korean band The Rose, The Sixth Borough, which is about the Long Island hip-hop scene, Sun Ra, Do the Impossible, about the jazz legend Sun Ra, Still Free TC, which is about Ty Dolla $ign, and Wizkid, Long Live Lagos, about Wizkid, the African music artist. That's it in a nutshell. Which one of these things stand out to you?
I am very excited. I want to see the Counting Crows Have You Seen Me Lately, based on the song from their second album, Recovering the Satellites, one of my favorite songs by them. And I really hope it dives into what seemed to the public an overnight success for the band. They were such a cultural juggernaut when they hit the scene. And Adam Duritz was such a magnetic personality. Family Guy does a whole segment on all the women he dated in the 90s. Daphne Merkin has a fantastic essay about hearing him on the radio and just yearning for a connection with this person who seemed to speak the frustration of the current time. And especially to call it Have You Seen Me Lately, I'm sure this is going to deal with how the band feels now. Because in 1994, you couldn't have your ears open and not hear Counting Crows. What does that feel like in 2025 or 2024, 3, 2, whenever this film was made? So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about the I Was Born This Way, Archbishop Carl Bean. This film has reflections on the song from Lady Gaga and Billy Porter, like all these people who felt seen by this song and the empowerment that this song was able to give so many people. So I think that's going to be really great. And the Sixth Borough, the Long Island hip hop scene, that film is going to play. And then afterwards, I don't know if it's performances or discussions with De La Soul and another artist who I wrote down somewhere and I'm very excited to see. Uh, I think these are going to be, obviously it's a cornerstone of the festival this year, and I hope we get to see a couple of them and talk about it.
There's also some documentaries, or there's a couple films that I remember that we covered at Sundance this year that are going to be there, like East of Wall, which is one of my favorite, sort of a docudrama film, which was really interesting. And then the Marlee Matlin documentary is going to be there as well. And I'm sure that's getting picked up. I'm sure that's going to be on like HBO or something like that. But that'll be interesting to see there. And then we also have some non-music documentaries, of which there were a lot also, but you had some selections.
Yeah, so I did jot down a couple that I thought were relevant, that I think are going to be good, and we're going to start with a couple of comedy documentaries. There's one called We Are Pat, which is a look at the controversial androgynous character played by Julia Sweetie on Saturday Night Live in the 90s. But this is viewed through the lens of actual transgender and androgynous sketch performers who have a troupe called We Are Pat, who have basically taken control of the Pat character and taken agency of it and reappropriated it for trans visibility and androgynous visibility. So that's going to be very interesting. And then moving right into 90s comedy, we have Long Live the State, which is about the MTV sketch comedy troupe that premiered on television in 1993, launched the careers of Michael Ian Black, Thomas Lennon, Carrie Kenny, Ken Marino, Joe Latruglio, and filmmaker David Wayne. So that's going to be really interesting. We have a film called Kerouac's Road, exploring the works of the great beat writer, with discussions with Josh Brolin, W. Kamau Bell, and Matt Dillon, among others. One I'm really interested in is called Video Heaven, and it's about how VHS changed the landscape of film watchers' relationships to film by bringing, because before that, you'd have to have a reel to reel in your house. VHS brought film to the common viewer and changed the relationship between film and viewer. And I think it's a very relevant conversation right now when we're talking about the current filmmaking and distribution cycle. It's going to be narrated by Maya Hawke, so I think that's going to be a really fascinating film. I'm very excited about that one. And then finally, we have My Mom Jane by Mariska Hargitay, talking about growing up with Jane Mansfield as her mother, and what that experience must be like. So, and that this is her first time behind the camera. So I'm really excited for that as well. Speaking music-wise, we left out the premiere of the visual album Something Beautiful by Miley Cyrus. 13 new songs that she'll be premiering at the festival in sort of a music film that she's directing along with some friends. And it's going to be produced by Panos Cosmatos, who brought us the masterpiece Mandy. So that's going to happen at the festival, and then afterwards she'll be there to discuss that. Comedian Mark Maron is going to be at the festival with a film called Are We Good, talking about his experiences as a stand-up comic and podcaster, but also the real-life tragedy of losing his lifetime partner while trying to remain hilarious. He will be doing a discussion after that as well. And also we have State of First with Congresswoman Sarah McBride, the first transgender woman elected to Congress for the state of Delaware. And this talks about her challenges during the election process, but also in the House of Representatives. And I think that's going to be very topical as well.
I'm interested to see the Andy Kaufman documentary, because I don't think I've ever seen a documentary about. There was the movie that Jim Carrey did, but and I remember Andy Kaufman from when I was a kid. But it's interesting to see what this will be and the perspective they have on it.
I did want to say that the title of the Andy Kaufman documentary is called Andy Kaufman Is Me. So I think we're going to get a lot of hopefully his viewpoints. I'm wondering if this is culled from any video diaries that he put together during his reign of terror. So we'll see what that is about.
I can't think of any other comedy stars that were more enigmatic than Andy Kaufman. Uh, Andy Kaufman. If you see Man on the Moon, or if you just know about Andy Kaufman, he passed away of cancer. He was so, I don't know, avant-garde maybe is the word with his comedy. People were coming up to him and asking him how the cancer bit was going to turn out. Like they were like, "Oh man, this cancer thing. This is like, I can't wait to see how this." Not realizing he was
Yeah, I
actually.
can't wait for the punchline.
I mean,
He's like, "Oh, you're gonna love it. It's a killer."
I mean, that's the extent. That's the extent of like who he was, and I can think of nobody like that. Really interesting, unique person, and a great performer. But yeah, so we moving on from that, we do have quite a few fictional narrative films and also some TV projects. You want to take a look at those?
Sure, let's jump right in. One film that I saw that stood out immediately that I really want to see is called Paradise Records, written and directed by rapper Logic, produced and edited by Kevin Smith. It's a comedy about a record store fighting to remain relevant, which, again, us Gen Xers, we hear that, we think Empire Records. And I think every generation needs an Empire Records. So I think it's fantastic this film is happening. Logic did work with Kevin Smith recently on the 430 movie. He played the titular hero in one of the films that the kids watched. What was it? Beaver Captain, some Flash Gordon ripoff that was hilarious. So to see them coming back together, also Reed Northrup, who was in the 430 movie, is going to be in this Paradise Records movie. So I'm very excited about that. Next is the film called The Best You Can, starring Kevin Bacon and Kira Sidgwick, who have not been on screen together for 20 years. So they're going to be working together. Kira Sidgwick plays a urologist. So I don't know if you've seen the film Gunshy with Liam Neeson and Sandra Bullock, but I think we might see some similar tones in this one, so that should be fun. The next film is a dramedy called Everything's Going to Be Great, starring Bryan Cranston and Allison Janney as theater parents who, due to a family tragedy, have to uproot and go elsewhere and live with an estranged brother played by Chris Cooper from the film American Beauty. And it's about adjusting to a new town, adjusting to a different way of life, artists uprooted and out of their element. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm thinking, kind of one of those mumblecore films that were all the rage in like the mid 2000s. So it'd be fun to see that in a current lens with these two amazing actors. So that should be great. Next one's a film called Sovereign. This looks to be about nationalism and masculinity, starring Nick Offerman, Dennis Leary, and Jacob Tremblay. So I think this could be very timely and very relevant, very topical. So that should be fun. Next is called One Spoon of Chocolate. This is the newest film by writer-director RZA. So not Man in the Iron Fists 1 or 2. This one appears to be a lot more grounded. And it's about racial tensions in Ohio. And it stars Shamik Moore. So that should be very fun, very interesting. I'm looking forward to that one. One that I didn't make the first time around when I put this list together, but I made sure to add, is a film called Sham by Takashi Miike, the Japanese auteur who brought us Audition and Ishi the Killer. His films make an impact. This one's based on a true story about violence in the classroom, but the violence is predicated by the teacher. So, and it shook Japan when it happened. It's based on a book that was written by the journalist who uncovered this story. So that should be a very impactful experience. That should be an experience film. And I think it is even part of one of like Tribeca's like After Dark or Escape or Now programs. Like it's not main competition. It's like sit down and be moved. And then finally, I put down a Deep Cover, which is a film I actually heard about a couple months ago, and I'm glad that it's going to be at Tribeca, coming out of England with Bryce Dallas Howard, Orlando Bloom, and Nick Mohammed from Ted Lasso. And it's about improv actors who somehow find themselves acting with mafia, uh, and find themselves yes-anding their way into a gang war. Has a fantastic supporting cast with Sean Bean, who I'm sure we will see punch his ticket, Patty Considine and Ian McShane. Action comedy, should be a lot of fun. Kind of a palate cleanser for all the heaviness that Tribeca can sometimes bring to its narrative feature films selections.
Paradise Records, which, you know, you mentioned Empire Records, that was like a staple of the 90s. That was in that like sort of Clueless area of comedy and things like that. Then Best You Can, we actually interviewed Kira Sedgwick when she was honored at the Muse Awards. She's lovely. She's smart. I was almost surprised that she didn't direct this one because she's been doing more directing. So that could be interesting. And I'm sure those guys are, I think they're New Yorkers, so they'll probably show up. Everything's going to be great. Sounds really interesting. It's called a dramedy. It kind of reminds me of, what was it, like Theater Camp? Which is just the film that came out a couple years ago. Have you seen any of RZA's previous work as a filmmaker?
I saw The Man with the Iron Fists, which this seems to be completely different from that. Man with the Iron Fists was based on his love of like Shaw Brothers kung fu films, and had a very like Bunraku feel to it, and was big characters and big fights, and almost a video game cinematic quality to it. This has a lot more of like a slow boil kind of look to it. So I'm thinking more like in like the Jordan Peele school of tension and suspense and thriller. I don't. It doesn't appear to be a horror, but it does appear to deal with some dark themes.
That looked interesting. Sham, Takashi Miike is, I think, how you say his
Ah,
name. Um, but I remember the film Audition. I think I actually watched that, but maybe I blocked it out as some sort of trauma response. It's the only thing I could think of.
right. Scrubbed it from your
Just
mind.
like I remember it happening. It was like sort of the birth of all that J horror. I saw a couple of films that were in that sort of like Asian horror type variety. So it'd be interesting. This is a true story.
So again, the films he's brought us thus far, and I was reading about him. He's done like 90 movies. 90. That's insane. But yeah, he defined a movement in Japanese film as perceived by Americans, in that heyday of independent film, and we were all excited what's coming from across the pond. We were watching Amelie and Brotherhood of the Wolf, and then Audition came and we're like, whoa. So to turn his sights to something that did happen, that again it's based on a book by the journalist that uncovered this story, and classroom violence and how it affected the individuals but also the nation. I think it's going to be something to sit down for. I'm really excited for it.
All right, let's talk a little bit about TV. There's some stuff that is like they're like staples there, and then they also have new TV stuff. Some of the staples include another season of Star Trek Strange New World. The Gilded Age. It's set in New York like early 1900s. It has like an incredible cast in it. Like I think Carrie Coon is in it. I think I saw Nathan Lane was in there. We interviewed Deborah Monk, who's also in that show, and she's been on in like a million television shows. And it's an HBO joint. I'm not sure how many seasons they're going to do. And then you said that Godfather of Harlem, which is a show I haven't seen, they're on their last season.
I couldn't confirm that. They are on their fourth season. Their fourth season is currently going on. It started April 13th, started airing. But what we're going to get the opportunity to see at Tribeca is the season 4 finale. Season 4 takes place after the assassination of Malcolm X. So it changes a lot of the dynamic of the world that has been built so far in Godfather of Harlem, starring Forrest Whitaker.
So there's a lot of independent films that come to Tribeca to try to get distribution because it is an acquisition festival. One of the things that they do at Tribeca that you don't see too many places, they have that Now program, which is new TV series. So like pilots and things like that. We covered one last year with the guys from Shonky, and we did that interview in the studio. Those guys are great. One of them was Kyle Hausman Stokes, and he did My Dead Friend Zoe. So I think, believe he directed that. So there's a lot of really good. I think Amy Schumer has a project there right now. So a lot of people are using this as a vehicle to get their television shows launched. How successful it is, I don't know what the pickup rate is, but it's actually just a good place to have to submit that's reputable, because most places aren't. Most places it's really hard to get noticed, and they're getting big projects. They're getting decent sized projects there.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that Schumer vehicle because it sounds really interesting. It's called Earth to Percy, and it's about a group of astronauts who are in space, and they're getting towards the end of their mission, and they're all making plans to go to Hawaii after they land, and no one invited Percy. So it's basically like sketch mentality where you take a regular occurrence and you try and make it as big as possible. So it's like, hey, we're all going to go have drinks after work, but work is floating around in a space shuttle. So I'm interested to see how they're going to stretch that into a television show. That should be interesting to see. And another big name that is coming back to television is Lena Dunham, has a show called Too Much, which is based on her real life emigration from New York City to London. And Tribeca being Tribeca, a festival in New York for New Yorkers, I think we can see a lot of ourselves on the screen when we see how we're perceived in a British environment, just being our natural selves. So that should be a lot of fun. And she'll be on site discussing that film.
Prime Video has a show called We Were Liars, which is a psychological thriller. And then a docu-series called The Furry Detectives Unmasking a Monster. Did you see this?
Yeah, I read into that. It seems interesting. I guess there was it's some journalists uncovered I guess it was like a wildlife exhibit kind of thing, like a safari park, and just covered up some or discovered some abuse behind the scenes. It's a 4-part series, so it looks a little heavy for me.
They're looking at some stuff that you don't normally find, and I do wonder, in this landscape, are these more independent films going to find a place, and will they find a business model? That's always interesting. I
think about some of the films we've seen over the past 2 years. These past 2 years, we've covered Sundance and Tribeca, two of the big ones. And we've seen some films that we talked about that were like, man, that movie, wow. And where are they? Where's Little Death? Like that movie was fascinating. Where is it? Griffin and Summer, did that get distribution?
Not so far as I know.
Right? That was a standout from last year's Tribeca. And yeah, where is it?
A lot of times these movies, sometimes they take as much as a year and a half to come out. I interviewed Jennifer Esposito about her film, and that literally came out a year later after premiering at Tribeca. So, we probably will see some of these things. I think for something like Little Death, which is just really unconventional, that might take a minute to find a distributor. And that, by the way, that review got lots of clicks. So people were interested in that movie. People are interested in Griffin and Summer. And sometimes I get comments on the YouTube channel saying, hey, when is this movie going to come out? And I'm like, your guess is as good as mine, because they haven't announced it yet. But hopefully, we're in touch with these PR companies, so hopefully they will let us know. And hopefully they will come out, because, you never know with film. And I also think that with Tribeca, they do have a good relationship with networks like HBO. HBO will use them to premiere certain things. Apple TV will use them to premiere certain things to get that sort of fan interaction and stuff like that, which is great. But yeah, and there's too much to watch. That's why you're listening to this show, so you can know what to watch. This is just a preview of the stuff that's there. Hopefully we'll get to see some of these things, review them, talk to the people involved, and give you more of a story to go by. But anyway, man, I got to wrap up. But for people who want to find you, read your work, where can they find you?
I am on the socials, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, at some derivation of Eric McClanahan. Look for this face. You can read my reviews at cinemascholars.com, nerdinitiative.com, which is a recent venture I just joined, and of course, No Rest for the Weekend podcast.com and ain'titcool.com.
And that's all we have for you today. Thanks so much for taking this trip down the rabbit hole. For more of our content, including more film festival coverage, visit norestfortheweekendpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, youtube.com/getbehindtherabbit. I'd like to give a big thanks to our sponsor, Black Magic Design. For Eric McClanahan and the BTRP Media Network, I'm Jason Godbey. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
This is the BTRP Media Network.